King Charles is stepping back from public duties while he undergoes treatment for cancer. The 76-year-old appeared in good spirits over the weekend when he was pictured smiling and waving to onlookers as he attended church alongside Queen Camilla in Sandringham. Buckingham Palace says the monarch remains wholly positive and is sharing his cancer diagnosis to prevent speculation and to raise awareness.
We will not see the King out and about doing public-facing duties for the foreseeable future. He is taking that time off, but he is still fulfilling his constitutional function. He hasn't stepped back from that in any way, so we don't need to see any councillors of state. Those are the people that step in for the King when he cannot perform his constitutional function. We won't expect to see them at any point right now. This is a developing story, so that may happen. But at the moment, he is fulfilling his constitutional function, so he's still receiving paperwork at home and will be doing those throughout his treatment.
Charles became king in September 2022 after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth. Last month, he underwent surgery for a benign enlarged prostate. Palace says this is a separate issue, but it hasn't confirmed further details other to say the king has a form of cancer. Royal officials say the heir to the throne, Prince William, is in regular contact with King Charles, while Prince Harry is expected to travel from the US to see his father in the coming days.
This is, one can hope, a time of healing for this family on many accounts. Prince Harry flying over is entirely to be expected, as any family member would, and it's nice to think that Prince Harry will be there by his father's side, as will Prince William. Prince William's duties, of course, will increase now.
King Charles will remain at home in London and will be treated as an outpatient. The US President Joe Biden says he is concerned about King Charles, while the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has wished His Majesty a full and speedy recovery. On the streets of London, people have been reacting to the King's cancer diagnosis.
I will say to him, like I said to my mum and my brother, be strong.
My thoughts are with him, with the family. I hope that they're all able to rally together and, that he gets well soon.
It's a bit of a shock. I'm genuinely heartfelt thoughts to him. That sounds pretty scary.
I'm very sad to hear this, very sorry to hear. And I pray that he will recover,
Dr. Cindy McCreery is a royal historian at the University of Sydney and joins us now. Dr. McCreery, thank you. We heard some reaction there. What's your reaction to this big news overnight?
Good morning, Gemma. Well, I think, like everyone, I'm saddened and shocked by this news. But I think it's clear from those interviews that there is a sense of continuity here, that the royal family, that King Charles, William and Harry are all stepping up and showing the world, and particularly the British people, that things will go on, that he will continue to perform his constitutional duties. So from a constitutional point of view, actually nothing changes at the moment.
Let's delve into that a bit. So really two types of duties for the King. So the official duties, the constitutional, and then those public engagements, which we see more of. So he will be continuing with those official duties that we don't tend to see, but those public-facing events, we won't see him at those for some time.
That's right. At this stage, we don't see that the King cannot perform those constitutional duties. So as we've already heard, there's no need to call upon the councillors of state to take over those roles. I would say, however, that while technically the King is fulfilling all the duties that he needs to as monarch, the public-facing duties have arguably become the most important part of royal duties. So in fact, although technically he's still performing as a king, for many people, of course, we're losing what we perhaps most value from the British monarch.
And as to those engagements that we don't get to see as much of, but I mean, he meets with the Prime Minister weekly, and that is said to be continuing under this.
Absolutely. And we have to remember that with COVID, of course, his mother adapted, as everyone did, to Zoom meetings and video calls. So those are also ways that they can continue with those duties.
What if he was feeling too unwell at any one point and, say, election was called? What would happen then?
There's a really clear path. Since 1937, a Regency Act has made provision for just that scenario, Gemma. What we see is that 4 councillors of state who are appointed from the 4 adult members of the royal family in the line of succession. So Prince William, Prince Harry, actually Prince Andrew and Andrew's eldest daughter, Beatrice. They would step up and take part and take on those royal duties.
Now, a lot of reaction from world leaders. What are your thoughts on what they've had to say about this?
I think it's clear that Charles is clearly not only admired and respected as a British monarch, but clearly among world leaders, he is really thought of very warmly. I think the statements by Justin Trudeau, by Donald Trump, by Joe Biden and others really show a sense of empathy for the man, not just the monarch.
And you mentioned family a moment ago, saying stepping up. So you expect, I think we would all expect Prince William to step up in this case. Harry's a bit more of a wild card. Do you think he will be stepping up?
Look, I think as other people have commented, this could be a real moment of rapprochement within the royal family. And of course, that would be a wonderful thing, not just on a family level, but also constitutionally, because we have to remember that Harry is in the line of succession and that while William's children are still minors, after William, it's Harry.
Now, we heard the reaction there from some of the British public. Does that cast your mind as a historian as to how different this would be at a different time when we didn't have access to all this information, or it might not have even needed to be released, that information, publicly?
Absolutely. This is a real game changer, Gemma. For Charles to openly acknowledge his cancer diagnosis is a new development. This is actually the anniversary, the 6th of February, of the death of his grandfather, George VI, who died of lung cancer. News about the King's illness and his sudden death, as well as George V, were very tightly controlled by the British media and the royal family. We're in a very new era now where people, not just the King, but other celebrities talk about cancer. But that has benefits. We know that cancer is a huge issue around the world. And in Britain, sadly, cancer survival rates are very low. So it's a really, perhaps, opportune moment for the King to do his best to help people across Britain to think about cancer, to perhaps call the NHS and get help. So this could be the silver lining, I think, more awareness of cancer.
Yes, certainly will raise that awareness. Dr. Cindy McCreary, Royal Historian at the University of Sydney, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Gemma.